Let's talk about Superman Krypton Coaster. So, for those who may not know about the ride, it's located at Six Flags Fiesta Texas. That's located in San Antonio, Texas. The stats are as follows. The max length is 4,025 feet with a max height of 168 feet, a max speed of 70 miles per hour, and with 6 inversions, which includes a vertical loop, a zero G roll, a cobra roll, a cobra roll, and interlocking corkscrews. All right, now we're caught up on what the ride is and where it's located. Let me give you my thoughts. So I went to the roller coaster rodeo that they have every year. I think this is their 4th year. This was my very first event, and I thought it was pretty good. I love the VIP access to every ride. I took full advantage of that, and one of the rides I rode, of course, was Superman Krypton Coaster. When I got my first ride, and after I got off, because of course I have to ride the back row, I thought it was pretty overrated. I didn't think it was as great as people made it, because before I rode it, everybody was like, oh my god, this is like one of the best floorless coasters and stuff. I mean, it does look nice, you know, it's really pretty right off that quarry wall, and it does some pretty cool maneuvers off of it, but I didn't think it was anything special. And mind you, I come from a state where it's nothing but intense B&Ms. I'm talking about Kumba, Montu, Shikra, Kraken, Manta, the Hulk, Dueling Dragons. If anybody knows what intense B&Ms are, that's me. I didn't think Superman was that ride at all. But there was a couple of factors to what I think why I didn't like the ride at first. Well, I did not say I didn't like, but I didn't think it was really all that at first. And I think mostly of it was due to the Texas heat. Now, there's something different about Texas, and me being a Floridian, saying this means a lot, because I'm used to like super humid, you know, unable to breathe through type humidity heat. Like Texas heat is like a completely different beast. And the fact that there was no clouds in the sky, like it was completely cloudless. Like, and the sun, like really, the sun was relentless. And I think it had a lot to do with my mood. A good chunk of that rodeo, at least during the day, I just was not in the mood to ride anything. So I'm thinking that kind of like this, the heat of the Texas sun kind of soured my mood a bit. So I wasn't really, you know, thinking highly of the ride. But I rode it again Monday. Monday was the day I was supposed to fly back to Florida, and I had time to kill, so I went back to Fiesta Texas, and I was in a much clearer mind. I was actually hydrated this time because I took Sunday off because I had to hydrate myself. But I went back Monday and I rode the ride again in the back row, and I was like, okay, no, this is not overrated like I thought. This is actually a pretty solid ride. It's still not as intense as the rides I mentioned before, but it has some good moments where I'm going to talk about right now. So the first moment that I thought stood out with this ride was the second drop on the quarry wall. So you have the first drop, then you have the vertical loop. After that, you go up the quarry wall, then you do like a turnaround, and then you dive back down to the second inversion. And I don't think too many people talk about that, but when you're in the back row, it's pretty good. It's like, I like how it's like a gradual increase of speed going back down, and it's very whippy in the back row, and I like that moment. And the second moment I like is the brake run. When you go to the brake run, you make this like almost sharp right turn to the first corkscrew. And when you're in the back row, especially when the brakes don't hit that hard, you get flung to that right, and it's nice and intense. I like that. So I think those are the two standout moments of the ride. The interlocking corkscrew, I didn't think that was anything special. The inversions, like the vertical loop, was kind of unique because it felt more like a hang time than like actual intensity, so that was pretty different. The zero G roll did nothing for me. The cobra roll did really nothing for me, but the ride looks nice. And one thing is, the ride is one of the smoothest floorless I've been on for sure. Definitely smoother than Kraken, definitely smoother than Scream. Speaking of which, I actually have a ranking of all the floorless coasters I've been on, and I'm going to talk about it right now. All right, so these are my rankings of all the floorlesses I've ridden so far. Number 5 is Hydra, located at Dorney Park. I rode it back in 2020 during the pandemic, and at that time they wasn't running full trains. They were running like every other row, And I think that kind of impacted how the ride felt, because with these older B&Ms, you need to have a full train in order to have it like ride the smoothest as it can. Because if it's like halfway full or even less than halfway full, it will be a bumpy ride. Hydra was that. I was in the front row. Only rode one time because I thought it was horrible. It was so rough. But I'm willing to try it again, like on a normal day. And I'm planning on visiting later this year, so I'll try it again. Number 4 is Scream, located at Six Flags Magic Mountain. I thought this was a pretty underrated ride, even though it does nothing special, nothing that I haven't done. It's pretty much a floorless version of Kumba as far as the layout, but it's still pretty good. You know, it has its levels of intensity, and you know, it's pretty cool. Number 3, of course, is Superman Krypton Coaster. It's the tallest coaster I've been on, the fastest, of course, I've been on, and it's pretty smooth. It's one of the smoothest floorlesses I've been on, and it has those moments, like I said before, and you know, it's still a pretty solid ride. You know. Number 2 is Kraken. Now, I think from all the ones I've written, this is like the roughest one I've been on, but it's still intense, man. Especially the second half is still pretty good. Although this past maintenance season, if I feel like it has felt a little slow a bit, especially in the second half, because the second half, like that second loop, used to be way more intense than it used to be. So I don't know what they did differently, but I feel like it's like slightly less intense than it used to be, but it's still good. And of course, number 1 is Medusa over at Six Flags Great Adventure. Now, this is based off of my 2015 ride of Medusa. I have no idea how it is now. I heard that it's a lot rougher now. But when I rode it, I was completely thrown off on how intense it was. Like, no one talked about this ride at all. The reason why it's number 1 is because I'm basing off of that ride. And yes, it's been about, 9 years from now. I definitely need to ride it again, you know, to make sure, you know, it's still at number 1. But yeah, as for now, that's where number 1 is. Yep, that's pretty much my list, and that's what I think about Superman Krypton Coaster, located at Six Flags Fiesta Texas. Oh, if you like this format, let me know in the comments below. Make sure to like and share, all that good stuff, blah 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 blah. See you next time.